What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here in our podcast. What's going on in pop culture right now? I took last week off, was away, so coming back, we got a bunch of stuff to get into, unsurprisingly. Starting off, we got a lot of music to touch on. Keshi's second album, Requiem, new release from 50/50 after they re-debuted, a lot to get into there. The unasked for return of Katy Perry, as well as the very much anticipated return of Jamie XX. And then on the movie front, we have Transfomers One, and on TV front, we have HBO's The Penguin. So a lot of things to get into here. Of course, make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod, see links below. Get the best of 2024 Spotify playlist link below. Let me know it's good, and let's get into it. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Keshi's second album, Requiem. R&B singer Keshi developed a cult fandom on SoundCloud and then really blew up with that debut, Gabriel, back in 2022. 3 billion streams, sold out tours across the world, kind of out of nowhere, because he was not someone who originally was aspiring to be a musician. He is now a monster artist and signed to UMG as a result. I didn't have big expectations going into Keshi's second album, Requiem, but it makes a lot of sense why he's grown so popular when you listen to his music. Keshi's silky smooth singing matched with very well produced R&B production. You can understand the appeal. There's a moodiness, there's an emo-ness, there's a sad boy nature to a lot of that Keshi music, so I totally get why people are into him. My favorite touch on this album, honestly, is the pretty consistent drum production throughout. The tempos, I think, really keep this album a lot more upbeat than I was expecting. And in a song like Soft Spot, you almost get those 80s synths that we know so well at this point. But Keshi's performance vocally also really jumps off the page. In general, I think he's a pretty solid vocalist, largely because he's able to really produce and mix his songs to accentuate his voice, even though he's not someone with these amazing pipes or anything. But with Requiem, you can really see the vision of what he's going for. And it also comes across as a bit of a step forward after Gabriel because it's not nearly as lo-fi as some of his early work. Going through the track list, the song Say, track 2, really smooth, catchy drum tempo. Again, that's a really common theme for me with this one. On the song Night, I love the bass drum specifically. Vocally, Keshi sounds great. I mentioned I like Soft Spot a lot, probably my favorite song on the album. Like that, I thought the hook on this was great, probably some of the best pure songwriting on the album. Consistent bass once again. A song like Just to Die at the end, it's a bit soft, it's a bit quiet, but then you have that closer, Id, which actually might be my favorite, come to think of it now. Has this soft start, this build, and then has these big drums. This style of R&B is usually not what I go for, but I did find the album pretty smooth, and vocally I think Keshi is just involved enough and motivated enough to really get out that songwriting and really imbue that passion from his deep heart into the music. So I think it really works, and I again totally understand why he's a big artist. There's such a market for this type of R&B and emo-ness, and he does it quite well. So no surprise why he's so successful. But let me know, what did you think of Keshi's Requiem? Are you a big Keshi fan? If so, was this a jump forward that you enjoyed? Either way, let me know. And for more music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of 50/50's second EP, Love Tune. Of course, 50/50 blew up last year with their song Cupid, which across all its versions and remixes has over 1 billion streams on Spotify. 50/50 as a result became the fastest K-pop group to debut on the Billboard Hot 100, getting on that chart within 4 months of the group coming into its own at the end of 2022. Of course, this was completely unexpected because 50/50 are on a much smaller label than most traditional successful K-pop groups. Attract, specifically, they parlayed that success into a placement on the Barbie soundtrack with a song I like quite a bit, Barbie Dreams. Despite all that momentum and goodwill, 50/50 as a K-pop group completely collapsed. They were a 4-member group, but now 3 of those members are gone, have left the company, and 50/50 is essentially re-debuting with the 1 original member and 4 others and becoming a 5-piece. And there's been contract terminations and lawsuits on both sides and people calling for a boycott of how the original iteration of the group was treated. Does not sound good. In the lead up to this re-debut, they've got a partnership set up with Sony Music, and I was just curious about how this exactly would go. Like Cupid, its success is largely due to the fact that the song is earwormy yet really inoffensive, and I think all the other music for the most part has been kind of the same. That's why Barbie Dreams really jumped out at me, because it was a lot more in your face and bigger. Going into 50/50's Love Tune, it's very much a question of, does this group present to you like a credible vision of like who they are moving forward? And I don't think they do. The music is completely fine and passable, but I think that's the problem. This is playlist core. This is intentionally inoffensive. This is music that does not have anything else beyond the surface. It's pleasant. It's well produced. The singing matches the beats fine. There's actually a bit more electronic production than I was expecting. Push Your Love has a really heavy bass, for example. But ultimately, 50/50 is not doing enough to stand out against their really capable peers, and certainly not doing enough to make you want to overlook the various ethical concerns about what was going on with the original version of this group. So I think moving forward, 50/50 caught lightning in a bottle, and then a lot of bad things happened, and we're just can't expect anything close to the success of Cupid moving forward. One of the singles, Starry Night, tempo, just like Push Your Love. I do like the production as it begins, but Starry Night has a really dull chorus to me. It's super washed out. SOS, I think this one grabbed me the most because there was some kind of light percussion going on. I'm not sure it was hand claps or what, but I enjoyed it. The bass drop into a much better hook. I think it's certainly like the most successful song on this EP. And the vocals are pretty smooth. They fit the song well. Gravity jumped out to me because it has like the more bigger, like dramatic, like traditional pop chorus. But yeah, ultimately, like, what is that 50/50 musical idea? There's just not a lot to point to. And it's very much an example of like the manufacturedness that you can find in the K-pop industry. Of course, most things you do listen to in K-pop are manufactured in some way, but this is just like, I just don't know what there is to latch on to at this point. But please let me know, what did you think of 50/50's Love Tune? Did you think it was a new step forward? Were you interested in it? Like, please tell me if you had some different thoughts to me. And for more music reviews, more K-pop reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Katy Perry's 7th album, 143. This is Katy's follow-up to her last album, Smile, which came out 4 years ago in 2020. And no one really hold it against you if you forgot about Smile. That was an album that very much came and went for Katy after being the long-awaited comeback to her famous flop Witness from 2017. Katy Perry's 7th album, 143, continues the creative and commercial downward spiral from her last albums, Witness and Smile. At this point, Katy Perry really comes across as a relic of pop music and the last vestige of 2010s pop specifically. To have Katy Perry release an album now at the end of summer 2024, when esteemed luminaries such as Billie Eilish and Beyonce and even Taylor to a certain degree have gotten less attention during the year of Charli XCX, Chappell Roan, and Sabrina Carpenter. Katy Perry's music simply just feels completely out of touch with where pop music is. It's not that any of this is offensively bad. It's not. Some of it's pretty fine. Katy, of course, is very capable vocal. There's just nothing under the hood with this music, and it's certainly not quirky enough or interesting enough to divert attention from where pop music is right now. I mean, it can't be overstated how much of a flop the debut single was, Woman's World. And frankly, it's justified. How do you make a song called Woman's World, ostensibly about female empowerment, and you make that song with Dr. Luke? Enough said. And she made almost the whole album with Dr. Luke, who, on one hand, was the creator and key collaborator of some of her greatest successes a decade ago. So maybe I understand why she thought she had to go back to that well, but it's just not working. And frankly, it became an even badder beat when the second single, Lifetimes, doesn't even chart and actually gets more attention for the music video potentially going against environmental laws and protections locally where it was filmed. Like, couldn't have gone worse. And then we get to the album, which to its credit is pretty brisk, 11 minutes, 34 minutes. And yeah, like, there's unsurprisingly nothing that really rises up to truly grab your attention. Is it amusing to me that you have 21 Savage and Doechii featured on this? Even Kim Petras for that regard? Even Jid? Yeah. On one hand, I think the Jid feature actually makes a ton of sense to me, given that he also worked with Imagine Dragons, like the ultimate bag casher there. But, these features are fine. I actually think Dochi in another universe, maybe that could have worked and been more fun. And this album, for the most part, is quite electronic. Like, Katy, again, great vocalist. She has one of the best voices in pop music, certainly in recent history. But her vocals are almost dubbed over a lot, and there's just so much production layered on to this album that perhaps, and like I'm probably being overly gracious here, perhaps if a different vision for an album like this, which is a bit more, lo-fi and maybe folky in a certain sense, allowing her to vocally shine a bit more, perhaps I would catch more people's attention. But I just feel like songwriting wise, like there's just not an appetite for this level of pop right now. And that's not specific to Katy Perry. She's hardly the only one who struggles with this. And I'm saying this as someone who is a Katy Perry fan. Like, I wouldn't be reviewing the album if I didn't previously really enjoy her music. That being said, do I go back to the Teenage Dream era all that much? I can't say I do, but Teenage Dream also was on my best songs of the decade list, and I stand by that. But I think pop music has really passed Katy by. It is kind of funny that we already got past the Vegas residency phase of the Katy Perry career, because she has enough hits, obviously the older ones, of course, but like she has enough hits that a residency type situation for her makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious what the next move is, just because this album is completely DOA, and we'll see that in the commercial performance as well. And you're certainly seeing it on streaming too. Like, just to kind of nail the point home on the lack of attention on this, like, you open up Katy Perry's name on Spotify, 58.8 million monthly listeners, 30th in the world, because she has multiple songs with a billion or near billions streams. Again, they're all 10 years old. All the new songs, including the new singles, they're not on her top 5. No one's listening to this new music. They're just listening to the old music. And you know what? I think that's fine. Like, again, there's completely certified reasons why Katy Perry is as successful as she's been. She sold over 100 million records. It's just, unfortunately, I just don't know if she has the capability to pivot and continue to sell a lot of records, as pop has kind of passed her by. And I don't think that's anything to be too ashamed of. Honestly, like, that happens to a lot of people in music, especially when you're making big tent, mainstream pop. It's okay. But that's just kind of what's happened. But let me know, what did you think of Katy Perry's 143? Did you find anything redeeming about it? Any song you want to revisit? Let me know. And for more music reviews, subscribe. I'll see you next time. What's up, Welcome Back Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of Jamie XX's second album, In Waves. This is the follow-up to In Color, which released 9 years ago, back in 2015. It's been a long time. Jamie is capping a incredible year for electronic music albums. Between Jamie XX, Kaytranada, Justice, Fred Again, Peggy Goo, like, it's been a huge year for anticipated and important and in-demand and critically interesting electronic music. And to get Jamie XX releasing his first album in 9 years is just icing on the cake at this point. I love Jamie XX's second album, In Waves. To me, this is like the pinnacle of electronic music album, because it's never boring. These songs are so involved and so layered that they switch up often multiple times over the course of their runtime. You never know what to expect throughout this entire track list. Bangers galore on this thing. Jamie's specific touch for being able to really layer in and build up his beats with just so many touches and flourishes. At times some sample vocals, but usually just guest featured vocals as well. Like, this album sings. I think some of the lead singles like Batty on the Floor and Daffodil absolutely shine. Without a doubt, this is one of my favorite albums of the year and will be making my top 10. Starting off the track list here, the first song, Wanna, I think in hindsight is actually one of the least successful songs, but it does help set the tone for where the album is going. You have these sung vocals because of the way it builds up over the course of the song, but I think the album really starts in earnest with track 2, Treat Each Other Right. It's a hard transition into the sample vocals, very propulsing song. I love the way it builds into that second drop. Track 3, Waited All Night, huge highlight. Of course, this involves Romy from the XX, Jamie's former band. They also collabed quite noticeably on Jamie's last solo album on the song Loud Places, one of his biggest hits. Unsurprisingly, their chemistry shines once again with Waited All Night. I really enjoy this song. Batty on the Floor featuring Honey Dijon. God damn, this song is a banger. Just absolute gas. This came out back in April, as a single, but between that piano refrain, the horns, man, there's a lot of good horns on this album, but they really, flare up on Batting on the Floor. The tempo on this, the rhythm on this song is just an absolute triumph. And even the outro gives you a key change. Like this song is gas. And then it follows up with another single, Daffodil, which features Kelsey, Lou, John Glacier, and Panda Bear. The way that song bounces, the drums are so sick, almost like deadpan vocals at times. But like, man, it's just so much fun. Still Summer, I enjoy the bass on that one. Another good switch up. The song Life featuring Robin. I mean, come on. The horns on this song are so good again. The loop, so infectious. And then the way Robin drops in like halfway through to just take the song to a whole nother level. So good. I love the switch ups. I love the tone changes. The Feeling I Get From You. Another nice sample there. The percussion loop is quite fun. But again, layering, building. Breather definitely stood out to me. It's a bit different from most of the rest of the other songs sound, and then you kind of go into the depths of like deep house and the vocals in the middle. But more than anything, I was like, wow, I feel like I'm in a Berlin club right now. The song is good. All You Children features the Avalanches. If the Avalanches released an album this year, this would, I think, be up there for like iconic electronic music years. To be honest, they're now my most anticipated electronic album to come out as their follow up. They've been at it since pre-pandemic. It's been a while. So anyway, that song also, unsurprisingly, is a really fun collab. I'm not sure if they're pitched up children vocals, but they sound like it. Pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I think In Waves is gas, honestly. Like this, my jaw was dropping a few times listening to this. I was listening to this in the car. Also, really set the mood right. Really, really hit. But yeah, I mean, for a 9-year wait, it's a lot of anticipation, a lot of hype, and I think it's delivered like through and through, honestly. Let me know, what was your favorite song on Jamie XX's In Waves? It's really hard to pick. Honestly, so many great choices, and that's just a sign of a great album. But let me know what you think. And for more music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of Transformers One, the new animated Transformers film from Josh Cooley, the longtime Pixar alum and director of Toy Story 4. Transformers One comes, just a year and change after Transformers Rise of the Beasts, the latest live-action venture from the Transformers franchise, and of course returns to the animated roots that the series blew up on, decades ago. I think for what it is, Transformers 1 is pretty successful. It's a fun romp of a animated adventure story. It's a bit refreshing to spend time with Transformers characters we've known in the past when they are still nobodies. Optimus Prime is not yet Optimus Prime, Megatron is not yet bad, etc. You get the point. I think the voice performances in the movie are pretty strong. Really nice humor. Keegan-Michael Key's Bumblebee, unsurprisingly quite funny. Animation-wise, I think the film is just okay. There's some times where it doesn't look especially great, but overall, I think it's just a fine Transformers entry. It's pretty solid. I was a bit surprised to see the film underperform at the box office, actually losing the number one spot to Beetlejuice's third weekend. That was definitely not what people thought, and the performance of this movie turns out it's really performing like a kid's movie, like many animated films, and isn't really appealing to the traditional fanboy or even Transformers crowd, which is a bit surprising. I'll be curious how the film legs out. I was thinking this could be like a nice win for the franchise because Rise of the Beasts was fine commercially, around 400, but overall Transformers franchise is, I think in commercial decline, to say the least, following, it's been a long time since the Bay Run, and of course the Bay Run gave us diminishing returns by the end, as we all know. At the end of the day, though, I think the movie is successful, it is fun, and I think a sequel actually would be pretty interesting because where the movie leaves you, of course, Optimus Prime becoming Optimus Prime, Megatron becoming Megatron. Screenplay-wise, there's actually a bit of, socioeconomic strife laid on as the Transformers on Cybertron are actually divided up into second-class citizens who can't actually transform, and that's including our friends Optimus and Bumblebee. Ultimately, the movie kind of gets away from that as the, kind of mythic destiny nature of Transformers storytelling takes hold. No problem with that. Like, that's what you expect to happen. I think Chris Hemsworth as Orion Pax, who becomes Optimus, pretty solid. Also, Brian Tyree Henry I think as D16 becomes Megatron, that the fall of D16 into becoming Megatron, becoming what he hates, once we learn about the betrayal of their overlord Sentinel Prime, voiced excellently by John Hamm. Once we learn about that, they do a good job of explaining that relationship and seeing it fray. It's of course amusing to encounter Starscream, this time voiced by Steve Buscemi. Scarlett Johansson very much typecast as Lita 1, this incredibly competent minor Autobot. Lawrence Fishburne really crushing it with the voice performance for Alpha Trion. And yeah, I think there's nothing really to be surprised about by watching this, but it's a pretty fun time, especially if you're a fan of Transformers. If you're not a fan of Transformers, it's probably not going to be super inviting to you. But on the other hand, it's kind of lacking in overarching lore to beat you over the head with. Obviously, there's a lot of exposition in the beginning regarding the MacGuffin the heroes have to find. But if you leave that to the side, they're really just on a traditional adventure story, and you can kind of latch onto it and just enjoy the humor. And I think the action set piece at the end, pretty solid. So Transformers 1, I wish it would have done a little bit better. I still think they'll make a sequel because the movie is still pretty modestly budgeted. So it'll be a success in the end. But let me know what you think of the film. And for more movie reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of The Penguin, the new DC drama series out now on HBO. Of course, this is the spinoff to Matthew Reeves' The Batman from 2022, with Colin Farrell reprising his role as the Penguin from that film. And the Penguin series very much is picking off right where that film left off, with Gotham thrown into disarray following the Riddler flooding the city, and of course that affecting people in disproportionate ways. We're thrown right in as the Penguin returns to the Iceberg Lounge in the first scene, of course now destroyed due to the issues going on with the flooding, but of course was a really awesome setting in the movie. And of course, the series is coming at, I think, an interesting time, because this is, once again, something from previous DC regime that is now coming out in this new James Gunn era of DC storytelling. So it's set to the side, as we know, set to go at that. And it is kind of nice that this actually was able to succeed as a series, because notably, they were developing a Gotham City Police Department series set in the Batman world, and that fell through. At one point, they tried to change it into an Arkham Asylum series that also fell apart. So I think we're going to be probably one and done with this world on the TV front. Maybe they make another season of The Penguin, but I don't think they're going to make any other shows. That much is clear under James Gunn. DC's The Penguin is successful similarly in the way The Batman was successful. This is grounded, it's gritty, it's dark, it's for adults. And while this series doesn't lean into the comic book source material all that much, I mean, heck, even Colin Farrell's The Penguin is going by Oz Cobb, not Oswald Cobblepot. They're leaning out of that. Colin Farrell's performance, even though it's layered in makeup and prosthetics, is incredibly committed. It's great. And it's quite exciting that the series also has Kristen Milioti able to match his energy as Sophia Falcone. I'm not watching the series expecting Batman to show up. I know he won't. I'm not expecting much of that Rogues Gallery either. I'm just expecting a gritty crime drama. And I think that's what we're going to get. Right off the bat, I think you get a nice scene showing the intelligence of the series, where you have Michael Zegan's young Falcone, having a tit for tat with Oz here, and Cobb's able to weasel his way out of it by killing young Falcone. And before that happens, they have, I think, a pretty interesting and heart-grabbing conversation, at least a little bit, as Penguin's trying to manipulate young Falcone before he realizes it's not going to work out with that local gangster story he tells. As the rest of the episode develops, we get introduced to Clancy Brown's Maroni, who's in prison, and of course Michael Kelly works for the Falcone family. Milioti shows up. We know Mark Strong will be playing Carmen Falcone in flashbacks, taking over for John Turturro. The sense of watching the Penguin weasel his way out of situations as this, gang war and, power struggle consumes Gotham, that's kind of like the crux of the show. So whether the Penguin as a character is deep enough to really support this series, I think remains to be seen. And when you take that question mark contrast with the fact that we're not expecting this to get super comic booky or bring in tons of Easter eggs regarding the rest of the Batman world, there is that open question of will this show be strong enough to be held up against other HBO dramas? Of course, this show was not even originally conceived as an HBO drama, but just a Max original. But I think they're wisely, of course, running this on HBO linear as well. I'm most looking forward to seeing what Miliotti's up to, because I think that character and that performance has a lot of potential, whereas I kind of feel like the Penguin is reined in, even though I know Colin Farrell's going to crush. So yeah, I guess I'm coming to the Penguin with low expectations and low stakes, because I'm aware of these stakes. Right? I think that's a common refrain with DC fans lately, as we're waiting for the James Gunn era to really begin in earnest. But because this is connected to something that was really great, of course, Matthew Reeves, the Batman from 2022, I think there's a lot of reason for optimism. So I enjoyed the first episode. I'm looking forward to watching the series. And if the show ultimately proves to have a low ceiling, I think that's totally fine. Even if this was greenlit in another era as just obviously brand management in its existence, there's enough intelligence with the storytelling, the screenwriting, and the acting that it's going to stand out among other similar types of spin-offs. Let me know what you think of The Penguin. What was your favorite thing about the premiere? And for more movie reviews, TV reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do for the pod this week. Next week, another action-packed one here. We have Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis. So much has been said about this movie, both good and bad. So I really cannot wait to see it and talk about that one. The conclusion of Industry Season 3, an absolute triumph on HBO. Can't wait. Animated movie The Wild Robot, which has been getting rave reviews. Also the George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Apple TV film Wolves. And on the music front, we have Tommy Reichman's debut album Coyote after the big year he's had, and also the posthumous Sophie album. So make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod, see links below. The best of 2024 Spotify playlist link below. Let me know it's good, and I'll see you next week.